How we doing, folks? Your host Moose here on the Pitt Panthers Football Network, and we join you for our Season 6, Week 15 around the NCAA recap show. And boy, what a week in college football. We had Cincinnati stating their claim that they should be in the college football playoff. They blew out USF 34-0 at halftime, and then they end up winning 58-21. Steve Williams and then the backup quarterback Fenton coming in, combining for over 350 yards passing. Cantrell running for 3 touchdowns. An incredible day. 6 or 7 total rushing touchdowns for Cincinnati on the day. An incredible victory for the Bearcats. TC Ford led Arkansas State to yet another Sun Belt Conference title, 11-1 season for them. And then in the Army-Navy game, Navy emerges victorious thanks to 200-yard rushers as they come out with a victory over Army in this one. Put up a really good performance, both passing and running the ball. Welsh trying to lead the Army offense, 190 yards, but only 13 points for them. Louisiana Lafayette wins, Tulane wins, Temple actually gets to bowl eligibility. Keegan Bentley with a great game as they knock off UCF in overtime to get their 6th win of the season. UCF will not be going bowling, but the big storyline of the week, Cincinnati 58, USF 21, an exclamation mark for the American Conference Championship for the Bearcats, opening up the question as to whether they should be in the college football playoff. Players of the week, Tremaine Humphrey, 5 touchdowns, 213 yards rushing in the victory over ECU. Huge game there for the Tulane running back. Patrick Carter, outside linebacker for Memphis, with a couple of sacks and a pick to win Defensive Player of the Week. Heisman Race, no changes there. Dustin Young, Taylor Coleman, Isaiah Russell will all be playing this week in conference championship games in order to effectively determine who wins the Heisman, or maybe Travis Huff still gets it for Virginia Tech despite not having a game. And when you look at the polls right now, the top 10 has not changed. The question mark still remains, who's going to be in the college football playoff? Cincinnati has stated their case. They're 12-0. But the question marks are going to come down to all of the conference championship games set to be in action this week. So let's give you a preview of conference championship week. 8 conference championship games on tap, including all 5 of the Power 5 conferences: SEC, Pac-12, ACC, Big 10, and Big 12, all with conference championship games now owing to the Big 12 adding 2 more teams and going to a 12-team conference. Those 2 teams really struggled this year, Houston and SMU, but they've allowed the Big 12 to have a conference championship game and make an easier claim for one of their teams to get into the college football playoff. Oklahoma, I think, though, would have been in without a college football or without a championship game regardless. But we look around the country, Mountain West Conference Championship game, you got Fresno State versus Utah State. Not a particularly exciting game. It's going to be a rushing affair, probably one of the lower scoring games you'll see, as well as one of the quicker games you'll see. These teams have okay offenses, very good defenses, and they both like to run the football. So you'd expect something along the lines of a 13-10 scoreline. Herb Street likes Fresno State. I like Utah State. We'll see what happens there. Now some action that'll help to wrap up the night. Ohio taking on Central Michigan. Ohio's been dominant in the MAC the last couple of years. They've continually made the conference championship game and won the conference. And I think they're going to do it again. Their rushing attack is the best in the country. They have 2 guys that pretty much rush for 100 yards a game in Jeremy Butler and Garcia as well. 300 yards a game running the football. Their defense only gives up about 300 yards a game. I like Ohio in this one. Louisiana Tech versus Marshall in the Conference USA Championship game. Herb Street likes Marshall. I like Marshall as well. Benny Washington, their number 1 running back, leads a pretty strong rushing attack. Marshall, again, another team with a very, very good defense. Number 8 defense in the country. Turnover differential is really the only area where they struggle, and Louisiana Tech is better than them. So that could provide the difference in the football game, but I still like Marshall in this one. Now, let's get into the big football games coming forward this week that will play a hand in the college football playoff. And we'll take a look at the one that probably has the least impact on the college football playoff would be Ohio State, Nebraska in the Big 10 championship game. Ohio State, number 14, though I think they could be ranked a little bit better. Very good defensively. Their offense has been middling. They like to run the football, which is back to a more typical Ohio State offense that you'd expect. But I don't see Ohio State having a chance to weasel their way into the college football playoff. If anything, an Ohio State victory would only be fuel to the fire to help get Cincinnati into the college football playoff because Cincinnati beat Ohio State the first week of this season. The question for Ohio State is who plays at quarterback. Brian Barbour, their senior starter, was injured early in the season. He's rumored to be able to play in this game. D.D. Harris has done a great job filling in, the junior, so we'll see how Ohio State utilizes their quarterbacks in this one. Now the Big 12 championship game. This one, again, not going to have much impact on the college football playoff picture, only because unless Oklahoma loses to Baylor by like 45 points, Oklahoma more than likely is in the college football playoff. 12-0 already this season, best defense in the country, third best offense in the country by yardage. I think the Sooners are in the playoff regardless of what happens, though of course a victory will punctuate them being atop the college football playoff polls, the number one ranking going into the playoff tournament. But I like Oklahoma in that one. Baylor will be interesting. They just had a shootout with Texas in their last contest to earn the berth into the Big 12 championship game, so they can score and could keep it interesting. Now, the Pac-12 championship game, USC versus Washington. USC is on a fantastic run. They've won 3 ranked games in a row. Their only 2 losses earlier in the year were to a top 10 Texas team and to Washington. So if USC gets the victory over Washington here, they'll have effectively offset one of their losses from earlier in the season. They'll go to 11-2. They'll have a ton of ranked wins in a row on their schedule. If they beat Washington, who knows? Maybe they go up against Cincinnati's resume, and especially if Ohio State loses to Nebraska. I mean, could you see USC getting in instead of Washington? Who knows? If Washington wins, though, they're definitely in the college football playoff. 1 loss. They've been fantastic this season. They get another ranked win. That's going to be a great game. Taylor Coleman is the player to watch, though. The USC quarterback has been on fire lately. He could make things interesting, even though Washington definitely has been the better team so far this season. USC a bit inconsistent. ACC championship game, Clemson-UNC. A similar question for UNC. They have a victory over number 6 Virginia Tech. If they get a victory over number 3 Clemson here, who's only lost to Virginia Tech, can UNC find a way to see themselves in the college football playoff? Their only 2 losses are to Notre Dame and to a good Miami team. It's still 2 losses, but they'd have some very good wins on their resume. So it's tough to decide how UNC could be effective if they win. If Clemson wins, it's effectively a college football playoff berth for the Tigers. If UNC wins, who knows? How will that affect the Tar Heels? How could that affect one-loss Virginia Tech that is sitting on the bubble waiting to see what happens with other results? SEC championship game, you can almost think of this like a playoff game for the playoff. If Ole Miss wins, I would expect them certainly to more than likely get into the college football playoff. They've been the most dominant offense in college football this season. Their only loss was to Arkansas by a single point. And it was a decent Arkansas team this season. They've had incredible results versus almost everybody else. Ole Miss, certainly the favorite in this game, especially with how up and down the Florida offense has been all season. Florida, only a 3-point loss to Tennessee. If that was their only loss on the resume, a win would get them in the playoff. However, they have that horrific loss to Georgia State midway through the season. Their defense has been fantastic this year. Their offense, you just never know what you're going to get with this Florida team. It's pretty much Clint Franklin at quarterback, nobody else. Malik Marshall's been good at receiver, but Mississippi has just so many weapons. Dustin Young at quarterback. And then they've just been incredible elsewhere. Pravon Dean at receiver, Bowie at tight end. I mean, they're fantastic. I like Ole Miss in this game. Herbstreit's going with Florida, which I think is a crazy pick, but it's going to be very, very interesting to see how that one shakes out. And so that will wrap up our preview of Conference Championship Week here, the 2021 football season. Every Power 5 game with implications for the college football playoff, whether the team that's in it could make the playoff or have an influence on their opponents who could get into the playoff. The question being, who do you guys see coming out victorious and making the Final Four? Namely, the Clemson-UNC game, USC-Washington game, and then the Florida-Ole Miss game. Who do you see as emerging victorious in that one? Let me know in the comments. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Hail to Pitt. We'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.